Well, hello and welcome to Binge Watch, the podcast where we take a look at the hottest new TV and film releases on streaming television platforms. I'm Hannah Fernando, the group editor of Woman and Woman and Home magazine.
And I'm Ian McEwan, writer on TV and Satellite Week, What's on TV and TV Times magazines. And today we're looking at the new releases that will be available on Friday, the 21st of June 2024, including Madness rockumentary series Before We Was We on ITVX, and Season 2 of Game of Thrones prequel House of the Dragon on Now TV.
And we'll also be checking out World War II drama We Were the Lucky Ones on Disney+, and the return of gym set comedy Peacock, starring People Just Do Nothing's Alan Mustafa to BBC iPlayer. But first, Ian, what is in the news?
Cillian Murphy will return as ruthless crime boss Tommy Shelby in Netflix's feature-length follow-up to the BBC's acclaimed Birmingham set gangster drama Peaky Blinders. What else is in the news, Hannah?
Prime Video thriller series Countdown will see Supernatural's Jensen Ackles play an LAPD police officer who joins an elite undercover task force to investigate a shocking murder.
Pretty decent selection for you this week. Bit of music, bit of fantasy, bit of drama, and a bit of comedy. Yes, very nice. Now, we're going to start on ITVX with a new 3-part documentary series which drops on Thursday the 20th of June. It's called Before We Was We, Madness by Madness. And here's a clip.
One step beyond!
It was just the melting pot of cultures. That was the greatest time of my life.
We sort of looking for adventure and stuff.
Graffiti was the first thing, and then music was really a huge step in the right direction.
Thought we were punks and we hated punks.
For us, it was ska.
Well, Hannah, as you know, I'm a big Madness fan, unsurprisingly, and my ska band, The Irregulars, we play a few Madness numbers, and I very much grew up on the ska two-tone scene, Madness, the specials. It's good stuff, and this is a pretty in-depth 3-part series in which they look back on their story. Now, I've only watched episode 1, but as much as anything else, it's a fascinating piece of social history, because most of the first episode is taken up. Well, first of all, we've got Chris Foreman, Mike Barson, Lee Thompson, Graham McPherson, aka Suggs, the front man, Daniel Woodgate, Mark Bedford and Carl Smith, aka Chaz Mash. So they're all individually looking back, first of all, on their childhoods, and they grew up in London, some of them in quite difficult circumstances. I mean, Suggs remembers that his dad was a heroin addict who he never really knew, some single families. Quite a few of them got in trouble with the law as youngsters, so they were kind of mucking about, shoplifting, jumping on and off freight trains, quite dangerous stuff. I think at least one of them ended up in a borstal. So by the end of episode 1, really, you've only just got into the formation of the band, when they were initially they're called the North London Invaders, and Suggs is brought in. Suggs is a bit younger than the rest of them, and he's brought in as the lead singer, and you see them, their first gig is in the garden at a party. They grew up playing on bomb sites and very much kind of fending for themselves, and they kind of formed this gang, and you hear about the kind of the fashions they were into and the music. So they like Ian Jury's band, Kilburn and the High Raves, they used to go and see them. And of course we saw recently, when we reviewed Camden, the music series, we heard all about how Madness sort of came to the fore in the Dublin Castle pub in Camden and started to build a following. And they have a very distinctive look as a band, didn't they? They had fantastic music videos, great songs, and as they say here, some of their songs are about what it was like growing up, especially Baggy Trousers, which is all about school days. And Suggs said that was kind of inspired by Ian Jury's, his lyrics just drawn from life and almost listing things that like reasons to be cheerful. Anyway, I'm rabbiting on. Suffice to say, if you like Madness, you will love this, and you'll learn a hell of a lot that you didn't know about these guys, and they're just a great bunch of mates who've been through a lot together. An in-depth and fascinating rockumentary series. What did you think, Hannah?
Well, we absolutely love music documentaries, don't we? And this doesn't disappoint. I mean, I don't think you have to, and I say this all the time, I don't think you have to be a Madness fan. I mean, I kind of am to a degree, but you learn so much about them. And I think any kind of music, unless you really, really hate it, probably would be a turn off in fairness. But actually, most of these docuseries are not going to be, music that really kind of you particularly despise, because it's kind of as relatively mainstream. And I just think what's really interesting in this is the kind of, well, what I love is the original footage, seeing interviews with people, learning things that we didn't know, the kind of troublesome backgrounds of some of these people, the difficult times that they were kind of, and also how difficult it was to kind of make it, and really seeing their 40-year career right from the very beginning, because it's been pretty colourful for them, and sort of a time where there was huge cultural and political upheaval. So I think I think it's incredibly interesting, and as I say, I absolutely love these, because the music we know, yes, the music we are interested in, but it's the sort of getting under the skin of a band and absolutely understanding how they got there, a bit about them, and their very interesting madness that absolutely adds to it, adds complete value. Really good.
Over on Disney Plus, our next offering is a new period drama series, which is available from Wednesday the 19th of June. It's called We Were the Lucky Ones, and here's a clip.
I understand the impossibility of getting home, but we will find a way to be together again.
We must organize. We've lived here for 1,000 years. We know this country, this land.
I want to do what you're doing.
But if you get caught, it jeopardizes all of us.
I'm aware of the stakes.
Yeah, so this is this follows a story of a family, a Jewish family from Poland, and they're forced apart during the Second World War, at the very beginning of World War II. And I find stuff like this really hard to watch. I've got to admit, I actually really enjoyed what I've seen of this in terms of how well it's been done. But I find stuff, I remember studying war poetry at school, and it kind of still haunts me. And this has some really haunting music that kind of that overlays or underlays, and which really adds to it. So it's based on the best-selling book by Georgia Hunter, and I think it was inspired by her own experiences her experience of her own family members, and it's a love story, but it's a story of it's incredibly inspiring, actually, because this family is split up in terrible circumstances, and their fight and their want and their resilience against all the odds. And the Nazis, we all know history. We've all seen stuff. Many of us, in fact, I'm going to Auschwitz this summer. Some people have been before, how haunting and how dreadful it is. But it's not until you watch something like this that you kind of, you really feel the pain of the families. I think you're straight away, you are with them, and you can't believe that these atrocities are happening. I think in a world where lots of stuff is going on right now, it's never been more sort of scary, I suppose, in the modern era, in today, seeing stuff like this. But also, as I say, incredibly inspiring to see a family that just kind of are fighting against all of the odds and find every bit of resilience they've got to try and find one another. Their lives are turned upside down. It's absolutely as you'd imagine, being split up in a situation like this, losing track. Mila, one of the main characters, she loses track of her husband. He'd gone to fight in the Polish army. And as I say, just not knowing where anyone is. At that time there were no phones. It was a war zone. We know what the Nazis were doing to the Jewish community. It's just absolutely terrible. And it's just, I don't know, it brings that to life, and it kind of, we should never forget. And stories like this stop us from ever forgetting. And I think that's incredibly important. And this family of not knowing whether they'll live or they'll die is just just massively moving, and I think really well done. And I think the music, basically, the new music is really brilliant, and as I say, it's incredibly haunting and plays a big part in this as a whole, I think. What do you think, Ian?
I enjoyed it. We've had a couple of strong Holocaust dramas recently, haven't we? We had The Tattooist of Auschwitz and A Small Light. This one is very much centred on a family, isn't it? And it's got one of my favourite actors, Henry Lloyd Hughes, who starred in that terrific period drama Indian Summers, set in the British Raj. So yeah, he's the oldest sibling. We've got a whole family. So you've got Addie and Helena, brother and sister. They're sort of, I guess, the central characters, played by Joey King and Logan Lerman. Then there are three siblings, Genek, Jacob and Miller. There are the parents, Sol and Nakuma, and their various partners. So in episode 1, you see them. So one of the kids is a composer and pianist who's living in Paris, but he comes home. It's before the war. He comes home for Passover. So all the family members are introduced. It's all very touching and warm. And then kind of the gathering storm, war is coming. And of course, Poland was the reason that we entered the war. But when it was invaded, it was sort of split into two, one half under German rule and the other under the Soviets. And of course, at the end of the war, Poland wasn't liberated. It ended up being part of the Soviet Union. Anyway, so yes, you're going to follow the stories of the various family members. Some of them decide to stay at home. Some of the sons join the army. So we're going to follow their various journeys. And there is some quite harrowing stuff. You know, two characters that are sort of forced at gunpoint to dig their own graves at one point. But there is an uplifting side to it, and it is very much about family bonds and, you know, that hope of being reunited that is sort of sustaining everyone through this conflagration that is sort of engulfing Europe, and the decisions, you know, do we stay, do we go, what's the best thing to do, what's the safest thing to do. So, and it's on a big scale, you know, it ranges quite far and wide, and there are some set pieces, the sort of war footage as well. So it's an impressive piece of work, well cast. I thought Joey King, who plays Helena, is particularly impressive, and in a way it's almost like a coming of age journey for her as well. She's really kind of forced to grow up very quickly in these circumstances. So yeah, and they do, quite a few of the characters go through some big changes as well. Henry's character goes from kind of being a playboy to sort of more of a quite heroic figure. So yeah, it's got some interesting story arcs in it, and I was very impressed by what I saw in episode 1. Over on Sky Atlantic and Now TV, arriving on Monday the 17th of June, it is season 2 of the Game of Thrones prequel, House of the Dragon. And here's a clip.
The Targaryen who sits the Iron Throne is not just a king or a queen. They are a protector of the realm. Now I find myself in an impossible position.
All hail King Aegon!
First up, Hannah, I've got to admit I am a newbie to this world, so I didn't watch any of Game of Thrones, and I didn't watch Series 1 of House of the Dragon. So I've been watching quite a lot of YouTube videos explaining what happened in House of the Dragon Series 1. And I guess this is the show for me to start with, I guess, because it is the prequel. It's set 200 years earlier. And what I've gleaned from my research, yes, so war is coming. In fact, there's a bit of exposition at the beginning of episode 1 where these two characters talk about the fact that war is coming. And the reason war is coming, it's an interesting blend of kind of elements almost copied from history ancient history and fantasy as well, because obviously there are dragons in it. But at the heart of it is a battle for succession. So challenging for succession. There are two different factions of the Targaryen clan. One side of them, they all look quite like Legolas from The Lord of the Rings, got this distinctive blonde hair. Anyway, long story short, I mean, you do need to go and watch series 1 to really kind of understand what's going on. But at the end of season 1, Prince Lucerys was killed. He represents kind of one faction, one side of the family, and he was killed by his mother's half-brother. It is quite confusing. During a dragon fight. Yeah, quite dramatic. And so now we're going to be looking at sort of vengeance, really, tit-for-tat vengeance, and which is going to kind of accelerate the war. You've got Matt Smith in this, and he is quite important in episode 1 because he plays Prince Daemon, and he is looking for vengeance, and so he travels to the stronghold of the other faction, and with the help of a rat catcher, he is going to exact a bloody vengeance which will have dramatic consequences. So I can see now what the fuss is all about because it's really well done. People who've watched both series say that this is a slower paced than Game of Thrones and better for it. So yeah, it's actually inspired me to really get into both series. I enjoyed what I saw. What do you think, Hannah? Is this for you?
It's a bit crazy, isn't it? I mean, dragons taking to the skies and armies marching on their enemies. I mean, it's just kind of like this civil war that's just in this sort of crazy fantasy series. Do you know what? It is well done. I mean, it's not my cup of tea. And I kind of think that I don't know if you need to see the kind of see the previous to it. Perhaps you do to set the scene, and I hadn't. But it's pretty action packed. They've thrown absolutely everything at it, and I don't know. It's just I think they say that it's bigger and better than the first series, and I think that there is a bit of sort of one of the issues that I have with things like this is kind of the unrelatability, if you like. But actually, what runs through this is some emotion. You know, when the Queen learns of her son's death. You know, at the end of the first season, you kind of see that, and you think, well, okay, that sort of plays on in this. And I think, I don't know, it's not something that I would probably choose to watch, but I think it is quite compelling. And I do think, like as you say, it's probably something we should investigate further because actually it's done well and it's got a bit of a cult following, hasn't it?
Okay, we're going to finish with some much needed light relief. Arriving on Tuesday the 18th of June on BBC Three and as a box set on BBC iPlayer, it is another second series, this time of the comedy Peacock. And here's a clip.
Why did you want to meet in a caf?
You thought it'd be intimidating like how they do it in Top Boy?
We do.
I'm just saying.
It's important to be able to handle the unexpected. Strong leadership.
Andy Peacock, great name.
Mic drop. That's me dropping the mic.
Come outside now!
Did you want to go outside?
I'd rather not.
He doesn't want to come outside.
Yep, as you say, this is the second series of the BBC Three comedy Peacock, and Alan Mustafa is returning to the lead of the cast. And do you know what? I think there were only 3 episodes in the first one, and there's more in the second series. And Mustafa, he acted in and co-wrote the mockumentary series People Just Do Nothing, and so he stars as this character Andy Peacock, who is a personal trainer. So if you haven't seen the first series, I mean, you can catch up. It's fine. It's just pretty. It's just very funny. It's just very sort of top line. But it follows his life as a personal trainer in this gym, and in this series, he kind of attempts to rebrand himself as this body positive fitness coach, but it reminds me a bit of The Office. It's not quite like that, but that sort of Ricky Gervais kind of, you just gets it wrong every step of the way with his staff, but thinks he's really quite funny and really quite cool, and it just, everything lands quite badly. As I say, I think the first series had 3 episodes in, and this has 6. So it was popular the first time round. So you've got Alan Mustafa as Andy Peacock, and it really is all. It does all absolutely centres around him, and he does very well with it, because, as I say, a bit like with Ricky Gervais in The Office, it's that sort of very dry. It took me a little while, and then I was like, I get this. This is quite funny. And everything he does, we all know somebody who's a bit like it, who's just a bit awkward in every sense, and he's kind of going through this bit of sort of weird identity crisis. And I guess working in the gym, there is it's a bit of a world, isn't it, of selfies, looking good, and trying to get gym memberships and all the rest of it. And vanity and success is a big part of it. And he loses, in the series, he loses out on a job promotion to a younger and better looking personal trainer. And he knows he's running out of time. He knows he needs to prove there's more to him than just his good looks. But can he be taken seriously? And as I say, it's quite dry, but it really is quite funny. And the fact that it's got 6 episodes in this proves that the first was a bit of a hit. What do you think, Ian?
Well, I absolutely loved People Just Do Nothing, which was about a pirate radio station, and Alan played MC Grinder. And so if you've not seen that, seek it out, because it's really, really good. And his character in this, Andy Peacock, is kind of not that dissimilar to MC Grinder, in that he's kind of deluded, really. He's a sort of lovable idiot. And and although there are some similarities, it's a bit with, say, Ricky Gervais. I mean, he has his comic delivery, in very different series. You'll notice there are similarities, but doesn't necessarily mean he's reprising the same character. So yeah, it's from the whole team, really, from behind People Just Do Nothing, isn't it? Because Steve Stamp, who was in that, has co-written it. And yeah, as you say, episode 1, he's potentially up for promotion, he thinks, and Pippa Haywood is in it as his boss, and the interview sequence is very amusing. There's this one particular thing he does in the interview to try and make a good impression, and it's very, very funny. So yeah, I didn't see series 1 of this. It completely passed me by, and I really enjoyed it. So yeah, if you like People Just Do Nothing, you will definitely like this. Now we've got to that time, Hannah, where we find out what you've been binge watching this week.
I think our lives are being ruled by the Euros now. Well, until it's possibly... No, I'm not going to say that. We're going all the way. And also, of course, Bridgerton, because they've all landed now. So it's absolutely great. Loving it.
As for me, I've revisited one of the many, many series that I've started watching and only got part the way through. It's on BBC iPlayer, and I started rewatching it because it's back for a second series. It's called Tokyo Vice, and it's about this young American journalist who gets a job on a newspaper in Tokyo and starts sort of investigating gang violence out there with the help of the police. It's so good, and it's just such a fascinating insight into Japanese culture. So yes, that is recommended. Now we've just got time to look ahead to next week's offering. So what is on the binge watch menu?
Well, the pressure is on Kami to keep his new restaurant afloat in season 3 of acclaimed culinary comedy drama The Bear on Disney+.
And Killers of the Flower Moon actor Lily Gladstone stars in Apple TV's Fancy Dance, a poignant drama about an indigenous Native American woman searching for her sister. So we look forward to those and much, much more. But in the meantime, listeners,
watching.